Good morning, team. Welcome back to reality. Today is the first Tuesday in 2021. I'm Amy Kaur, and I'm joined by Kevin Van Eck, and we are live out of the Goose Island office. So I'm not sure what you're drinking this morning, depending on what your New Year's resolution was, but grab a cup of it, and let's jump into our first episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. One of the questions that came up was, how long into January do you say Happy New Year? And probably the first week, right? Because I feel like people are going to be saying it for about the entire month if it's the first time you've talked with them. But Happy New Year. It's the 5th, like Amy said. Today, we're going to talk about something you can use to kick off your year, something that before we get into the busy market, before we get into spring, something that's really going to be beneficial. And it's nothing new. It's not something you haven't ever heard of. It's your database. But now is a perfect time to talk about it and talk about it in a little bit of detail and how you can manage it now to make sure that you're set up for success generating referrals in 2021.
Yeah, and we often talk about why a database is so important. And I'm going to give you a news flash, everyone. We are in sales. And when we're in sales, the whole concept is we need to find clients or people who are interested in us being able to help them buy or sell real estate. And so the first thing that we need to do in our business is make sure that we have the people we need to reach out to create success for our business. And so we need to create a database, a spreadsheet, a set of information that has all of your contacts. So, the first thing that you really want to start thinking about as you're getting into the new year, and it's okay, it doesn't matter where you're at with this. It is just the sense of identifying that this is something that you need to focus on in order to create success in your business. We talk about it a lot in real estate and in sales. It's a numbers game. The more people that you are in front of and can reach out to and can let them know you're available to help them, the greater the number of people who are going to reach back out to you and say, yes, I would love your help. So really a database is you getting a collection of information together of people that you know, acquaintances, people that you've met before, and putting it into one spot. So it makes it really easy for you to reach out, but also for you to make sure to keep track of when you reached out to somebody. What did you talk about? When is your next follow-up? So it's really important for all of us in sales to get a good handle on our database. And here's the thing, you can start small. Start with your first 25 to 50 people. It's about having great quality contacts and over time continuing to grow that database into something larger so that the number of people you're getting in front of continues to grow year over year. And that in effect is going to help you grow your business year over year.
That's right. Like Amy said, it's a numbers game. And so you'll hear Amy and me talk about the ideal number of 150. But as Amy said, if you're not there yet, don't sit down and plan out 6 hours on a Saturday to put together 150 people. Now, if you can do that, great. But otherwise, let's take it piece by piece and start putting together these people. Like Amy said, acquaintances, past clients, people that we know that could be referral sources for us. And when we talk about that numbers game, there's a ratio out there, and you've heard it before. It's 1 in 6. If you have over 100 contacts in your database and you are communicating, you do market to them, you do have personal outreach to them, the number is that you should get 1 referral for every 6 people in your database. So do the math on that. Is that what's happening from your business right now? Is that what's happening from your database? And if we don't have a database, it's likely not. We're just rolling the dice and seeing what comes to us. So in terms of the numbers, start small, like Amy said, just start putting a list together, start putting people together. Past clients are an easy one. You can pull it from the MLS. And remember, if you're using App Properties CRM and the DMS, then you can actually pull all of your past clients from the CRM. They're automatically loaded from the DMS within platform. So have a goal, start with 150, but start building slowly to get there.
That's great, Kevin. And another thing that, we talk a lot about is, what contact information should I have for the people that are in my database? And let's face it, a lot of us do have people in our database where maybe all we have is their name and their email address. And they may be ranked kind of on a lower level. They may be somebody that, I don't get in contact with as regularly or don't know as well. And there is, a reason to have them in your database, even if you just do have their name and their email. But in order to really be successful in reaching out to people, you need to be able to have full contact information. So obviously first and last name, email address is key to have them in the CRM, but it's also having their mailing address and their phone number if you can. And the reason why this is so important is you want to find different ways to be reaching out to people. You want them to feel like they see you everywhere. So if you've got, like, let's talk about your subset of 150 people, you really want to make sure that you've got email, phone number, and address, because you may want to include them on your monthly mailing list, which is a really important way for them to see you quickly, whether it's the 5 seconds they take a look at your postcard and then throw it into the garbage can, but it keeps you top of mind and it reminds them that you're in business. But then there might be other times where you need to reach out on a much more personal level, and you want to be able to pick up the phone or shoot them a text. So you're going to need that cell phone number. So make sure that you have really complete information, especially for your A's and B's. Those are your top people. And we're going to talk about ranking in a minute, but it's really important for them to be able to receive contact from you in various different ways. It creates an opportunity for you to get professional and show them the business side of you, but it also gives you the opportunity to reach out from a personal level. And that's the key aspect of where these relationships really do develop.
Yeah, that's so important. Absolutely right, Amy. So sometimes we get overwhelmed by having to then collect the information. How do we get their mailing address? How do we get their phone number if we don't have it? And how do we do it without being salesy? Well, a lot of what we spent last year was talking about providing value and not being salesy. How if we're reaching out personally, that then it doesn't feel salesy. So one way that you could collect information is once you have someone's name and their email address or any piece of contact info, you could reach out individually and personally. And maybe that's something we do with those A's that we're talking about. Amy will talk about ranking in just a few, but when we talk about A's, maybe that is a personal outreach to confirm their contact info. But another way that you can do it in bulk and still personally, but in bulk, is through a tool called Postable. It's at postable.com. We've talked about it a few times in the last few months, but it's really easy. If you go to postable.com and you click on Get Addresses, you can create a survey that you can either email or send via text where you're asking for contact information. Now, the next question is, when we talk about value or not being salesy, what do you say when you're collecting contact information, right? You're not going to tell them that you're going to spam them over email, because you're not. What are you going to do? We tell them and say, now is the perfect time for this too, is, hey, I'm getting my mailing list together. I don't know, you may not have been on my holiday card list, or I didn't send out holiday cards. I want to make sure that I get you one next year, or I want to make sure that I have your contact info. Or you could say, I want to make sure that I wish you a happy birthday. And that's one of the questions you can ask in the survey. You can also get information outside of contact info that are slam dunk reasons to reach out. So make it easy on yourselves. Maybe you do reach out personally to a few, but also check out postable.com. It's free to use to collect addresses. And what's great is you can export, once someone responds to the survey, you can export all of the contacts, all of the responses into an Excel spreadsheet that you can upload and import into your CRM.
Those are great points, Kevin. And I couldn't agree with you more that right now is one of the easiest times of the year to be reaching out and asking people for their updated contact info, because all of us, even the people you're reaching out to, we're all in that mindset of new year, time to get organized. So it's a really natural way to reach out. All right, so I want to talk about ranking. We get a lot of questions from agents about how to put all of their contacts into certain buckets. And when you think about ranking, the first thing that I really want you to focus on when you look at these individuals is how much time, energy, and money am I going to put into each of these individuals? Based off of your answer, that is how you're going to figure out where to rank them. The other thing that I want you to consider is that you don't necessarily rank somebody just because they were a client. They aren't automatically an A just because they were a past buyer or seller. When you're thinking about ranking, you want to associate them to the odds of them referring business to you. And that means that when someone says real estate to them, they're going to say, call Amy Core. The more that you find that somebody is going to refer you and that that's going to be their response, then that's going to be your A individual. Those are the people that are your biggest brand ambassadors and have the greatest likelihood of referring people on. I actually had an A, actually two of them, in my own CRM, and they were actually never clients of mine. I actually never helped them buy or sell simply because they just were never at that point in their life. But they were really great brand ambassadors for me, and they referred a ton of people over the course of my time selling. So again, think about whether or not they're going to refer business to you. And the people who have the greatest likelihood of being your best brand ambassadors are your A's. Those are also the people you're going to reach out to the most. And let's face it, spend the most money on saying thank you and continuing to grow that relationship. The second ranking are B's. So to me, a lot of times B's tend to be those past clients or people that you know that most of the time might refer you, but they do need a little bit of that consistent nudging and for you to stay in front of them. And I will tell you that if you do a really great job of nurturing your B's and reaching out and making quality contact, putting them into the CAP program, oftentimes I do see B's moving into that A category. It's all about really making sure that you nurture that relationship. And then we take a look at C's. C's could be an example of, I know many of us have this out there, where we worked with clients maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and let's face it, we kind of lost contact. And they're a relationship. It's one we want to nurture, and it might actually develop into something great, but we feel uncomfortable about it right now. They are probably a C that you would want to rank because you still want to make sure that they're receiving your e-blasts. You probably want to make sure that they get into some sort of quarterly communication, but the C's are people that right now are not going to refer you. But again, with a little bit of focus, attention, and consistency, they may move their way up from a C into a B and then maybe even into an A. And then D is a category of, Kevin and I were talking about this earlier. A lot of us have those individuals that maybe we met at open houses, that we got sort of an interesting Zillow lead and we got their contact information. We're not necessarily going to remove them from our database, but we only maybe have their email. We don't know them that well. So you keep them in the D category. And at some point in time, if they get your mailer and they're suddenly in the market for buying a house, they may still reach out. So there's no harm in staying in communication. I'd also rank a D. A lot of people ask me about categories where they know someone, but right now they have somebody else who's their primary realtor. I wouldn't necessarily take them out of your database. Again, you never know when something may change with who their primary realtor is. And with you staying in contact and sort of staying in front of them, that relationship could essentially change. So the thing is with the Ds, they're getting your baseline communication. There's really no harm or foul in keeping them in there. And you never know when that consistent flow of being in front of them at some point in time could convert into business.
Yeah, I love how you explained that, Amy, because we all have limited time and money, right? So we have to rank. So our suggestion to you today, start your outreach now. And we talked about at the very beginning about the ideal number of 150, and we talked about starting small, just start putting together a list. Start your outreach now as you're building your list. Don't wait until you have 150. Don't wait until you have 200. Your database will never be complete. And so often we hear people say, well, once my database is ready, then I will start reaching out to people. Don't. Start today and focus on those A's. right? One of the things and one of the mistakes, to Amy's point about ranking, that we do is we start reaching out to everybody equally, and we spend the same amount of money on everybody equally. And that's not a great idea, because either we're going to run out of money or we're going to run out of time, and we're missing those A's and B's, the ones that are going to be most impactful in our business. So as you're building your list today, tomorrow, this week, and you start putting those names together, reach out now. Send that one text, send two texts, whatever it might be. Reach out, start today. Don't wait until your database is complete, because it will never be complete.
So I told Kevin this morning that my mantra for 2021 is to embrace the messy. And I'm encouraging all of you to embrace the messy. And what do I mean by that? We all start out the new year. I have my brand new calendar for the year. I'm only using one perfect pen right now, and I'm trying to write as neatly as I can. And, we know that in about 3 days, life is going to derail us, right? Just when we want to make sure that everything is perfect, stuff gets messy. And you might look at your database and think, ugh, it's messy. You know what? Embrace it. While it might be messy, while it might not be perfect, there are still people in there that you can reach out to right now. So Kevin and I have started a book. He's a little further ahead. He's on page 66 and I'm on page 10 of Tiny Habits. It's a really amazing book that talks about habit building. And it actually takes kind of an opposite philosophy of what I think so many of us focus on, which, when we're thinking about a diet or changing a way of doing something, we decide kind of go big or go home. And we usually go home by day 2. So this whole concept of tiny habits is to really start small. I mean, in the book, the guy talks about how he started with 1 push-up every single day until he decided to build up to 2 push-ups and then into 3. So it's about just taking 1 action a day that might change the trajectory of what your year looks like. So as far as outreach goes, grab your cup of coffee in the morning. If that's something that you do every day, then tether a new habit to something you're always going to do. If you're always grabbing coffee, then decide, when I'm grabbing my coffee, I'm also just going to reach out to 1 person. I'm just going to text 1 person every morning as I'm getting my cup of joe ready to go. And that's going to make some change. So just start with small habits. And you know what? Reward yourself. If you do have that cup of coffee and you do text, say, that was a great job, Amy. I'm going to do that again tomorrow. If you really focus on taking small steps forward, they will make great impact in the long term. And don't beat yourself up. Life is messy. Our business is messy. Things are chaotic. But if you embrace the messy and, excuse yourself or say it's okay if you get off target 1 day or a couple of days, just get back on the horse and continue taking steps forward. We promise that if you do it, you will see change.
Really great advice. Start small. And so here's the challenge today. We talked about, no matter where you are, Amy started at the beginning, no matter where you are with a database, whether you have one now or not, let's get going. Let's get going on making sure that we have people in a database, that they have contact information, that they are ranked. And as you're doing each of these things, start your outreach. And one of the things we ended 2020 with that we really received so many responses and success stories from was during our Ninja Accelerators, where we talked about, right now, text someone that you haven't been in contact with. And we were flooded with success stories. Some resulted in transactions, which, is the goal ultimately, but a lot of them resulted in the start or restart of a relationship that maybe had been broken, or someone we hadn't talked to in a period of time that we should have been in contact with. So at the very least, it's fostering a relationship that can lead to referrals in 2021 and beyond. So share your success stories with us. Our challenge right now, text 1 person. Right now, as you're watching this, as you close up the screen, you close up Coffee with Amy and Kevin from January 5th, 2021, text 1 person that you should be in contact with and send us what happens at coffee@properties.com. So thank you for joining us today. We hope that you begin working on your database. Keep us posted at that email address, coffee@properties.com. Keep us posted on your success. And thanks, as always, for joining us. We're looking forward to a wonderful 2021 together.
Thanks, team. Make it a great week, and we will see you next Tuesday.